Hi there. This is Afro Perspectives, Trump's peace deal for the Eastern DRC. The DRC and Rwanda are expected to finalize a peace agreement in late May. The US brokered a declaration of principles of agreement between the DRC and Rwanda on April the 25th and set a deadline of May 2 for the parties to draft a preliminary peace agreement. However, Trump's peace plan for the Eastern DRC is collapsing in the face of demands by Rwanda. Rwanda is proposing that it wants the FDLR neutralized as a threat to Rwanda. The establishment of what Olivier Nduhungirehe, the Rwanda foreign minister, calls a joint security mechanism. Masad Boulos, Trump's advisor on Africa and the Middle East, said that the United States requires Rwanda to withdraw its troops from the Eastern DRC and cut its support for M23, and for the DRC to address Rwanda's security concerns, which is acknowledging that the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, known as the FDLR in French, should be neutralized before the signing ceremony takes place. Masad Boulos has said that the United States is committed to establish what is being referred to as a joint security mechanisms to monitor both countries, that is Rwanda and the DRC, their progress towards the peace deal. That body comprises of France, Qatar, Togo, and the United States. Both Rwanda and the DRC have to submit their proposals by the 2nd of May as agreed upon in the Declaration of Principles of Agreement signed on April 25. Rwanda is making aggressive demands which by any standard cannot be considered part of any peace deal. It's already making gestures that the two Kivus provinces are autonomous zones from the rest of the DRC. The M23 and their Rwandan sponsors are launching parallel structures to the DRC government in North and South Kivu. The M23 appointed governor of North Kivu, Erasto Musanga, commissioned the paving of a 35-mile stretch of the RP529 highway from Sake to Masisi, the town on the 2nd of May. That might not mean much, but Willy Manzi, the M23 appointed vice governor of North Kivu in charge of political affairs, has said on social media that on the 2nd of May, the road is a symbol of a new era, and the plan is to establish structures of government separate from the central authority in Kinshasa. The second request by Rwanda is that the FDLR, the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, like I've said above, are a threat to Rwanda and should be neutralized before a peace deal can be declared. If that is the demand by the DRC is supposed to meet, then that peace deal is doomed to fail. Consider this little inconvenient fact. The M23 in March claimed to have captured a group of FDLR fighters and handed over them to the Rwanda Defense Forces. Among them was a soldier referred to as Brigadier General Ezekiel Gakwerere, whose identity document supplied by the Rwanda government itself lists his occupation as a public servant. You can see that on screen on there. I've loaded the identity document itself. It lists as a fonctionnaire which in French translates to a public servant. And the identity documents lists his employer as Minadef. Minadef, for those who some of us who are not familiar with the French language, simply is short for Ministry of Defense. And Gakwerere, an intelligence operative from the Ministry of Defense in Kigali, is based in Gisenyi, a town in Rwanda just across the border from Goma. Locals in Goma know him as Bolingo. That's him in civilian clothes on the screen on there. I've loaded up his photo on there. So there you have it. An intelligence operative from the Ministry of Defense in Kigali presented as a general from the FDLR. Then you have the case of Corporal Patrick Ishimwe, who was presented in January by the Rwandan media organization Igihe as a captured fugitive. Yet in March, the same Patrick Ishimwe, who was captured and presented to the media in January in Kigali, he was presented in March as present among the FDLR fighters captured by the M23. So you can see for yourself, the so-called threat from the FDLR is a false flag operation by the Rwanda intelligence services. Rwanda, if the statement by Olivier Ndugihere is anything to go by, will only pull out of Eastern DRC when its demands are met, which is the neutralization of the FDR. However, as you can see, FDR are Rwandan citizens infiltrated into North Kivu for purposes of manipulating decision makers in the Western world into thinking that Rwanda faces a threat from the Eastern DRC. And there is no such thing. As you can see, that's an intelligence operation, and it's amateurish for reasons I will demonstrate below. Rwanda itself has fabricated the FDLR as a security threat. Consider this. Lieutenant General Kayumba Nyamwasa, who established the Rwanda Intelligence Services in 1995 and later became Chief of Staff of the Rwanda Defense Forces, has disclosed that it's a myth that the FDLR are genocidaires. The International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, held in 1994 in the Tanzanian town of Arusha, did not convict even a single FDLR fighter for genocide. And 95% of former FDLR fighters are in Rwanda itself and are now serving in the Rwanda Defense Forces. I cannot bring you the video clips where General Nyamwasa relates all this for copyright reasons. For those who are interested in this aspect of Rwandan foreign policy, let me know in the comments section below and I will attach the links. And then there is the fabricated claim that Rwanda are protecting Congolese Tutsis. And then there is the fabricated claim that the M23 and Rwanda are protecting Congolese Tutsis in the two Kivus. Take this little inconvenient fact. The Congolese Tutsis are called the Nyamulenge community and are mostly from South Kivu in the Minembwe Plains. The Congolese government has long recognized them as part of the Congolese ethnic groups in South Kivu. Most members of this ethnic group have held prominent positions in government. Take Azarias Ruberwa. During Joseph Kabila's presidency, he was one of the 4 vice presidents. Then you have Moise Nyarugabo. He was in 2006 nominated as Minister for the Economy in the transitional government, and later he became Deputy Speaker in the Congolese Parliament. The Nyamulenges are Congolese Tutsis, and like the rest of the other 450 ethnic groups in the DRC, they are free to exploit opportunities available to any other Congolese group. Congolese Tutsis are represented in all walks of life in the DRC. Take for instance General Pacific Masunzu. He is the commander of the 3rd Zone of Defense in the FADC, responsible for security in South Kivu. Then you have Brigadier General Olivier Gasita. In 2009, he was appointed by President Tshisekedi as military administrator of Yumbi territory, and then recently he was appointed deputy commander of the 34th Military Region. Then you have Alexis Gisaro, who comes from a prominent Nyamulenge family and currently is the Minister of Infrastructure and Public Works in Prime Minister Judith Suminwa's cabinet. Of course, the list would not be complete without actually mentioning Charles Bisengimana. During President Kabila's tenure, he was Commissioner General of the Congolese National Police. As you can see for yourself, it's a fabrication to present to the world that Congolese Tutsi are being persecuted in the DRC. You can see for yourself the evidence that this is a community thriving like any other ethnic group in the Congo. Their loyalties are within the DRC, their country of birth, and Rwanda cannot claim to protect citizens of another country even if they happen to share a common language. So you can see for yourself that Rwanda's demands for peace in Eastern DRC, for the Congolese government, they will never be able to eliminate that threat as long as Rwanda is able to mount its false flag operations. Then you have Rwanda's demand that M23 fighters should be integrated into the regular Congolese army, the FARDC. Take Sultani Makenga, a citizen of Rwanda who claims to have been born in Rutshuru on Congolese soil. He joined the Rwanda Patriotic Front in 1990 and fought in the war to remove Juvenal Biarimana, then the ruler in Rwanda at that time. Then in 1996, when Rwanda decided to plan to invade the DRC, then known as the Zaire, and its plan to remove the long-time dictator Mobutu Sese Seko, Makenga was part of the invading force that removed Mobutu, alongside other Rwandans like James Kabarebe. Then you have Willy Ngoma, who now goes by the military rank of Lieutenant Colonel. He was born in Kinigi, a town in northern Rwanda. He is nicknamed Ngarurira Ingoma Rutikanga. Forgive me if I'm failing to pronounce these names because they are in Kinyarwanda and I don't claim to know that language very well. I ran that nickname into Google Translate and it is in Kinyarwanda and roughly translates to English as I will restore the empire. The empire referred to is the Hima Tutsi Empire, which M23 intends to create out of the union of the two Kivu provinces with Rwanda. Sultani Makenga and Corporal Willy Ngoma. Oh, sorry. I got his rank wrong. He is supposed to be Lieutenant Colonel, like what the M23 want us to believe. But I believe this is a corporal anyway. Lieutenant Colonel Willy Ngoma and Makenga are so determined in their plan to establish a Hima Tutsi Empire in Eastern DRC. Their claims of protecting fellow Congolese ring hollow when you consider that both Makenga and Ngoma are responsible for mass abductions, looting, sexual abuse of women and girls. You can see for yourself that both leaders of the M23 are Rwandans masquerading as Congolese. The Rwandan demand that M23 are Congolese is another false flag operation. The last time Rwanda infiltrated its citizens into the DRC army was in 2009. Those infiltrators have probably been retired by now or have even passed away. To further destabilize Congo, Kagame is planning another wave of infiltrations of Rwandans into the DRC and its army. This so-called peace plan is another opportunity for Kagame to further weaken the DRC from the inside. Peace on Rwanda's terms in Eastern DRC amount to those negotiating on the DRC's behalf surrendering control of their country to an external aggressor. It's a capitulation. It's raising the white flag. With the connivance of a man in charge of a superpower like Trump, Kagame might actually succeed in his designs for the two Kivu provinces. He is dangling the carrot in front of Trump, and it's not only minerals from the two Kivu provinces. It's the prospect of Trump sending undocumented foreigners who are currently in the United States to Rwanda. And if sending those who aspire for settling in the United States and happen to be undocumented is abominable to you, if sending them to Rwanda is something you do not agree with, consider the Rwandan plan of settling 500,000 of its own citizens in the high plateau in South Kivu named Fizi and the Ruzizi Plains. Rwanda claims that it has 500,000 refugees who have fled to Rwanda and plans to repatriate them as part of the peace process. People in Eastern DRC have no reason and incentive to flee to Rwanda. The DRC is massive, the size of Western Europe, and you had camps for the internally displaced, which all of you can see on social media. And Most of the refugees we are talking about have fled to other parts of the DRC, and they do not need to go to tiny Rwanda. Kagame plans to replace local Congolese with his own fellow citizens, and with the connivance of Trump, he might end up achieving such an objective. Take this incontestable fact. Rwanda is a postage-sized country, and its 14 million people are squeezed into a tiny parcel of land. There are 554 Rwandans squeezed into a square mile in Rwanda itself. Cross the border into the two Kivus, and you have 50 Congolese sharing a square kilometer. Then you can see that the absurd claim that Rwanda has 500,000 Congolese sheltering in its territory is part of a calculated plan at annexing the two Kivus by upsetting the balance of Congolese to Rwandans in the two Kivu provinces. So what the DRC have as demands for peace in DRC? Not much, really. Respect for the DRC's territorial integrity is nothing to negotiate about. The African Union, in its original founding principles, upholds the principle of respect for the borders that existed at the time of achieving independence, a concept known as it in possedidetis, or I hope I pronounced that concept right. My Latin is probably not as good as I would want to pretend. For the DRC to be accorded such respect is not a win at all. It's simply acknowledging what other African countries take for granted. Then an agreement for joint exploration of minerals in the two Kivus just does not make sense at all. It's rewarding aggression with rewards of minerals and riches stemming from the sale of that minerals. What about the ordinary Congolese? For the past 25 or so years, millions of Congolese have lost their limbs, their own relatives, their possessions, and have to flee to camps for the internally displaced. Deaths from the succession of wars has been estimated to surpass 10 million. That's 10 million human lives lost. What sort of justice do the Congolese get from this peace deal? Not much, really, if my guess is correct, to be honest. This peace deal is a declaration by Rwanda as the belligerent and aggressor of final victory. Right, thank you all for following this piece. If there is anything that I have got wrong or that I failed to mention, please drop your comments in the box below. And if you agree with an analysis presented above, please just give me some likes, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Bye. Merci.